2, 1. Blog Talk Radio.
First of all, let me start off by giving thanks and praise due to the Most High Creator, ancient of days, Elohelu. No Muhammad, Selassie's a Jesus for you to pray to. They hate you, trying to take everything, moving will awake soon. They be gone by day 2. See, I'm palm in the arm and the shake too. Place move, staying calm like I can't lose. I brought a camp full of soldiers who can snatch the show. Yeah, I got an army of Shang Soons. Sun Tzu, all the war, how I make moves. Pay dues, but I'm part of the day. Who would have fought the armies of the true living God? YAH'S soldiers moving, but tell them make room. Our enemies like bread. I'ma need a 4-plate spoon, knife, and a hang too. Hebrew the light, some spice, say he ain't you. I'm Yehuda ask, eat him if it ain't true. I set a bait like I'm trying to catch lake food. Pray for patience, cause I hate to debate fools. The time is coming, you'll see it on today's news. America is now following the slave rules. All the birds are against the white one. Take them out like the 8-ball when you play pool. We inside to make a more. What's I to be a dyke if you want to be gay cool. Babylon, yo, wrong. Too many nations to name, you done slain where you came to. Probably wanna send me out to somewhere out of space. Move me out, bring me back, saving tunes so they fake doom. So my lineage is chosen. I try to have a heart attack, the integrity of Joseph. Faithful like Abraham, strong like Samson and meek like Moses. Watch this like Daniel, perfect like Noah and Job. I hope I can walk like Enoch, come back like Elijah, turn hearts to Zion. What are my lions waiting, awaken the sleeping giant? 400 years in the comatose, the soul's reviving. No more dry bones alone, hopeless and rotten. It's set in stone, headed home like it's no other. Hey, new breed blessings and by the quaalude. Create the earth since they say man look like him, the angels. Modern science, the fire sight of children of Zion. Watch out, they got your stocks, look wait for the coming of Shiloh. Warrior music looping my YIShiYAH inspire movement. 16 inspiring kings will wind up like Constantine. Break it down, Babel, chopper like Joe and fire brimstone. My YAH woman, proud out the bubble like we practice contortion. Aboard the wicked owls of Edom and Esau, YAH'S ways are cancerous. Cut out the moon worship with pins, cut out the amethyst. Damaging these amateurs, y'all spinning with this whirlwind. Tough the YAH'S arm, covered by seraphims. How good is it to rob a brethren? They give the earth his medicine. YAH is a car, there's none ahead of him. Wisdom of YAH, better than Ruby. Check Proverbs 8. Beauty of YAH is Jay's wife, Hebrew Beyonce. Righteous is my mind state, rhyming till I'm by the gates. Still the fate to those who will not praise that they done passed away. Greatest to my YAH, Noah's wrath they couldn't escape. But the light to my Elohim, YAH wills we speak face to face.
They calling us the blessed ones, but we waxing fat on just to run. But if you move, the rest will come up text of us, the next will run. Who pity this coming, just getting it numb. Watching they tongues stretch for crumb. They're gonna feel they heat will reflex our guns, leaving them lame and deaf and dumb. The heart is how I test my son. I giant of black till lexicon. I animal beating my chest like drum. We leaving their bodies methods done while the wolves is keep the elected one. To protect them jumping on the wretched ones. See haters, I expected some. Like I thought it affected none. Like we got them eyes to detect your bums. Like we got your scan six so we detect the runs. And you getting chased by a million black folks who've been packed in slums. Who's hungry and for fun, like break your legs, backs and thumbs. So we take to the maximum. We smashing them, smacking their wives, taking their spoils, we attacking them. I hear the light, our flight become second to none, so come. Our people is time to nip it for y'all, broke it down like both of your ankles is sprung.
Our Genesis started in the book of Exodus. Born in America cause Yahweh is correcting us. He commanded us to be holy in Leviticus. Then we multiplied to where you couldn't even number us. But since we refuse his philosophy, he gonna consume us with curses from Deuteronomy. It's all about the quality, never about the quantity. To the last 5 letters from Israelite, you got YAH'S elite. 1 from a family and 2 from a city. What make up the remnant who Yahweh with pity? He visits the iniquity to the seeds of them that hated him, showing his mercy to thousands of them that wait for him. My genesis started with the crucifix. I never knew I was worshiping graven images. No sacrifices of righteousness, only wickedness. Man-made doctrine is all of what religion is. No addition or contradicting what Yah has mentioned. It ain't no need for multiplication or long division. No subtraction or any other type of mathematics. Just trusting Yahweh's word and what he say will happen.
Let's go. It's the delight of my soul, the only thing that control. This is the sweetest the roll that I ate in this hole. You know it's the Almighty, the one who's always right. Be you see the light in the sky, you know it's day, and then it's night when the lesser light shine. It's the most sublime, the most profound, the illest sound never heard round this town, around this globe. It be the Torah of Yahweh Elohim. Do you understand the things that I speak in these days of the last? It done past when these people bout to fall off the earth like grass with this, like the flower fade. You know how it is these days. People getting played, being told lies of age, but my words they spray, proclaim the Most High's name. And you know how it is. We ain't playing no games. Now you give me this word, so it speaks the fire, and y'all be like wood burned up. Tell me that you could ever test black. Never that. Step back. Don't make me grab the cats. Quickly they go click to the clap. Y'all cats see how it all comes all into one meaning of truth. It be Yahweh. I'm up in the booth doing what I do, teaching my youth. Y'all cats better know the truth in here. There's no smears, there's no squares. There's only one Yahweh, the Elohim. I'm his son, IshiYAH, Malak, and I'm done.
Then you say, what do you mean? Well, y'all not able to back up what you're teaching. You just said that because Alicia said it. But if you're really a student of the Bible, then you show me that. Don't tell me it's right because Alicia said it's right. Show me it's right because you're able to prove it's right. Now, I'm tired of y'all making all them statements that a day become before a night, and the only defense you have is Alicia said it. Now, is that an adequate response? Sure. I don't mind telling you that at all. Because if you can't back it up, and you've been in this class 5, 10, 15, 20 years, and you can't show us a verse that clearly identifies to the world that the day starts before a night, then maybe what they're saying is true. I certainly hope it's not. But you're going to have to do and show me something. Does anyone want to show us something?
They put in darkness for light. It broke your covenants of day and the night. You gave the sun and the moon and all the stars that shine when you see them in the sky for signs, seasons, and the time, and other reasons to divide. Genesis 1 and 5. You said the evening and the morning were the first day. Not from evening until morning or from evening until evening. What the heathen teaching delete our birth race. Let's read the verse, wait. Jeremiah 31 and 35. If those ordinances depart from the order that you made it, then also shall the seed of Jacob cease forever from being a nation. Some say he done cause See, don't understand the Hebrew language or speak the tongue and follow ancient civilizations. My lexicon is broken, but Yah define what's spoken. So he put the words in my mouth like Aharon to Moses. That's cause I know the sire. You can't mix Yom and Lila or Enkoshek neither. We travel with a pillar and cloud by day, and by night a pillar of fire. Add not two, least he reproving you be found the liar. If a day begins at evening when it's quite dark, well let me ask a question, when does the night start? Is it the same? Them scriptures you can't find. Daniel 7:25, they don't think to change times. The fourth beast stopped the earth, still getting devoured nowadays. Starts at 12 a.m. for 24 hours. But let me get some scripture proving day starts in the morning. Judges 19:25 through 26 of 1 Samuel 19:11, Numbers 11 verse 32, Exodus 16 and 23. It says tomorrow is the Sabbath, bake what you would bake today. See what you would see, cause in the morning you won't see a thing. They asking what is the importance, let me reconvene. Don't think it's only blabbing, cause if you don't know when the day start, then you won't know when to keep the holy Sabbath. We follow modern men who teach you about historians, Pope George, calendars, Gregorian. It gotta be a moral to the story in this spiritual war we in. Got me swinging swords again, cause we don't know the Father, they gon' have to bring Mowreh in. Job 17 and 12, check what the writers say. The light is short because of darkness, they changed the night to day. Ain't here to scold at this, so my mission's to show the difference. Confirming the holy scriptures, the curse if I loathe to mention. The wicked plotting while you sleep, creating bold inventions. No weapon formed against me shall prosper, they goal extension. Wipe out our whole existence by putting holes in the ozone, so we overexposed to the solar emissions. If you would only listen, you would've got the news. I'm well protected like an insect in a rap cocoon that never hatched a bloom. Israel is black, Israelis, well I guess they drew lies like the back of June. Destroyed our culture, molded sculptures, but history will never say it right. The first ones that gave us Christ turned the day to night. I wonder would they change their life instead of hating sight and praying that I throw away my mic.
And Elohim divided. Notice everything was dark at first. And Elohim divided
the light from the darkness.
the light from the darkness.
And Elohim called the light day.
What's the first thing he defined? What's the first thing he gave a name to? What's the first thing he found that was good? Elohim saw the light that it was good. So Elohim divided.
Numbers 28, verse 4 and 5, sacrifices involved, which is the order that's commanded by law. Morning and evening, burnt offering that's given to Yah. Not meaning to be offensive, just bringing another witness. Exodus 10:13, in case your brain need refocus. The east wind came all day and night, next day it brought in locusts. Y'all played ball darkness in Egypt while we had light in Goshen. Genesis 1:14, give you the reason for the lights appointed. Greater light the rule by day, lesser the rule by night. So if the day starts at evening, is that the greatest of light? Nah, that mean the day is coming to conclusion. That decree is given by Yah, and not yet jumping to conclusions. Psalm 136, 7 through 9, it explains plenty. But when you ask for a script that says the day starts at night, they don't provide any. Further, can they explain what it means to decree that Yah said Ezekiel 46:13 through 15? I mean, if a day starts at night, exactly what will you see? A best that I can truly agree. I'm standing for my people. Yah is righteous, never is an equal. This for those with broken English or you fluent Hebrew. The law was given to Israel and not a stranger. Stand by the words of Yah, I'm just a freak of nature. I suppose no scripture flows an antidote to cure us of mental sickness. If it's broken, we need to fix it. Isaiah 60:19-20, reduce your theories to pennies. ObediYAH, Azariah, spewing out Yah's fire. The covenant made was spoken 33 to Jeremiah. Iron is sharp as iron.
Shalom, shalom. Giving all honor, all glory, and all praises to the Holy One of Yisrael, whose name alone is Yahweh, our Elohim. I am your host this evening, Mowreh ObediYAH Yisrael, of the House of Yisrael, located in 1907 Vine Street. And I'm standing in for the senior Mowreh here at the House of Yisrael, Mowreh IshYAH YIsraEL. And this is nothing but the truth. And we're giving all honor, all glory, and all praises to the Holy One of Israel, whose name alone is Yahweh. Now, who is Yah? Well, Yahweh is the creator of the heavens, the earth, the sea, and all that in them is. Yahweh is the Savior and the Redeemer of not only Israel, but of the entire world. Yahweh is our lawgiver. Yahweh is our judge, and Yahweh is our king, and he alone will save us. So we give all honor, glory, and praises unto the true and living Elohim, whose name alone is Yahweh. And I'd like to say shalom to all of our people that are listening via the internet, whether it be Facebook, Blog Talk, or YouTube. For we know that the only reason why you are tuned in is because of your fear and your love towards the Creator. And we have an interesting topic that we will be discussing this evening, because it's an interesting way of how the Most High works. And how the Most High works is something that's quite interesting. There was a nation, a whole tower of people that lived on the face of this earth. And they lived in a town, they lived in a nation that was quite prominent. They had kings, they had queens, they had their own economic system, and they were set. But there was one thing that was done. There was an action that was committed that changed the whole trajectory, the whole totality, the whole judgment of an entire nation. It was an action that was committed that changed the whole projection of a nation. And it's quite coincidental why the Most High gave this nation the name that it received, and why this nation is prominent even to this very day. See, the scripture says that every word of Elohim is pure, and he is a shield unto them that put their trust in him. Add thou not unto his words, lest he reprove thee, and thou be found a liar. And the instructions of Yahweh, the wisdom of the true and living Elohim, also gave us this testimony of instruction in the book of Proverbs, the 3rd chapter. And in the book of Proverbs, the 3rd chapter, I'm going to read the 5th verse. It reads, trust in Yahweh with all thy heart, and lean not unto thine own understanding. In all thy ways acknowledge him, and he shall direct thy paths. Be not wise in thy own eyes, fear Yah, and depart from evil. This is some of the greatest advice, counsel, wisdom that you can give to a nation of people. Why? Because by following this counsel, you can be redeemed. By following this counsel, you can be hidden. By following this counsel, your nation and your household can prosper. But what happened when this instruction is not followed? What happened when this wisdom is not hearkened to? What happened when these instructions are disobeyed? Well, we're going to read some testimonies this evening to show you exactly why the states of the nations are in the state that they're in, and why we are in the midst of them. If you turn with me to the book of Genesis, the 11th chapter. And in the book of Genesis, the 11th chapter, I'm going to begin reading at the very first verse. Genesis 11 verse 1 reads, and the whole earth was of one language and of one speech. So the whole earth, the entire earth, was in unison. The whole entire earth was one, because there was one language and one speech. And let's continue reading. And it came to pass, as they journeyed from the east, that they found a plain in the land of Shinar, and they dwelt there. And they said one to another, Go to, let us make brick, and burn them thoroughly. And they had brick for stone, and slime had they for mortar. Now, are they building houses? Are they building apartments? Are they trying to get all settled in? Well, let's continue reading and see what was taking place. And they said, Go to, let us build us a city and a tower, whose top may reach unto heaven, and let us make us a name, lest we be scattered abroad upon the face of the earth. So yeah, they was trying to build houses, and they were trying to build towers. But they weren't trying to build a tower so they can watch over the entire city, so they can make sure that every man, woman, and child could be watched and protected. No, they was trying to build up a tower all the way up to the heavens, so they can make themselves a name and that they wouldn't be scattered. And what happened with this? Well, we're going to see the judgment of exactly what happened. In verse 6, it reads, And Yahweh said, Behold, the people is one, and they all have one language. And this they began to do. And now nothing will be restrained from them which they have imagined to do. See, Yahweh is the creator. And Yahweh knew what would happen if this commission was completed. Yahweh knew exactly what would take place if this was accomplished. If these houses were built and this tower was built. Yahweh said, well, look, if this happens, man, it won't be nothing that will be out of their hand, that will be restrained for them. And they will be able to do whatever they imagine to do. Why? Because this is why Yahweh is saying he is one. This is why Yahweh commands his people to be one. Because there is power in unity. There is power in being of one mind. There's power in being of one heart and of one consent. That's why Yahweh said we have one shepherd. That's why Yahweh said we have one manner of law. That's why Yahweh said that he is the true and living Elohim, and besides him, there is none else. That's why it says Yahweh our Elohim is one Yah. Because the power is in being in one. See, when you have several different powers, one can go rogue. Or one can say, well, I don't feel like living under your rule anymore, under your command anymore. I'm going to go off and branch and do my own thing. But you see, when you one, it's powerful. And Yahweh knew this. And look at what Yahweh did. So Yahweh, verse 8. So Yahweh scattered abroad from thence upon the face of all the earth, and they left off to build the city. Therefore the name of it is called Babel, because Yahweh did there confound the language of all the earth. And from thence did Yahweh scatter them abroad upon the face of all the earth. Yes, this is what happened. Yahweh said it's only one reason why this won't, it's a reason why this won't come to pass. It's a reason why this won't be completed. Because I'm going to confound the language and I'm going to scatter the people. And this is what Yahweh did. He confounded the language and he scattered the people. Mission not accomplished. Mission destroyed. And a lot may say, well, why are you reading this testimony? Why is this important? Well, because it's important to know, because if you know anything about the works of Yah or the judgments of Yah, or if you know anything about history, you will know that this town was called Babel. And the word Babel means confusion. And Babel is the father of Babylon. And Babylon had a daughter, and it's called the daughter of Babylon. But why are we speaking about the town Babel tonight? Well, because There's nothing that is new under the sun. The same thing that was trying to be accomplished in Genesis, the 11th chapter, verses 1 through 5, are the same things that's trying to be accomplished even to this very day. You see, there's a lot of our people that are screaming, why are we unified? Why aren't we together? Why don't we have our own banks? Why don't we have our own cities? Why don't we have our own economic system? Why don't we have our own places to go, but we don't have to mingle with other nations? And why don't we just gather? But you see, Yahweh says in the wisdom of Yah, let you know that the wisdom of the prudent is to understand his way. And when the entire earth was of one language and of one speech, this is what got comprised. This is what was thought of. This was the meditation of the people. And it's only one reason why they thought it like this. It's only one reason why they would consider doing something like this. Because they didn't magnify Yahweh. So therefore Yahweh came down and confounded their whole speech and scattered the people. Now the spirit of Babel, that hasn't gone nowhere. Even if the city is laid waste to this very day, even if the city is decimated, even if the tower was never built, even if the houses were never built, the mentality is still in the people today. There's a lot of people asking for prosperity today and independence today, but it's not to sanctify Yahweh. It's to build their name up. They trying to do the same thing that the people of Babel was doing so they can keep a name in the earth. So they can have great fame. So people can be in awe at them and say, man, look at that tower. It go all the way up to the heavens. And that's what they doing in Babylon, or the daughter of Babylon today. They building these high towers. They building these high buildings. They doing all of these works so that their name can remain in the earth. So not you can be at awe at the Most High, but you can be at the awe of them. And what was the judgment? Yahweh gave them confusion. Because that's what Babel means. That's what Babylon means. Confusion. So anytime you enter into the state, or anytime you take on the mentality, or anytime you're influenced by your surrounding, you are taking on the ways of a people and of a nation that is confused. And this is why Yahweh confounded their speech. This is why Yahweh scattered the people. Because Yahweh said if they had accomplished this, there would be nothing that they couldn't imagine to do. They wouldn't be restrained from anything. And this is important to know. Because as much as our people are screaming, we need to have this. We need to be independent. Well, what are you trying to be independent for? Here today, you'll have a bunch of Israelites saying, man, Israelites, we need our own nation. We need Goshen. We need this. We need independence. But what are you going to do? It's a lot that don't even believe you can keep the law. It's a lot that don't even believe that you can keep the Shabbats. It's a lot that believe that you can't even call Yahweh by his name. So guess what's going to happen when those people are gathered in? When those people are united, guess what's going to take place? They're going to start having the same mentality as the people in Genesis, the 11th chapter. But Yahweh had to fix all. See, Yahweh knew how important it was to speak. Because Yahweh is the creator of language. Yahweh is the creator of unity. And Yahweh know that once the speech is confounded, and once the people are scattered, well then whatever plan and resolve that you have that's not done in righteousness or sanctifying Yah will never come to pass. You may have many inventions. You may have many things that you want to accomplish, but you won't have, because Yah have scattered your speech and he has scattered you as a people. And any time that you try to do something, you're going to be all out confused. Why? Because Yahweh is the Elohim of all spirits. And these people had the spirit to try to do something that was not permissible by the Most High. and he confounded them, and they confused. And once your speech is confused, once you scattered as a people, now you're left to your own way. So either you're going to return back to Yah, or you're going to continue going in the ways of perverseness. And once you have learned the ways of Babylon, once you have taken on the ways of Babylon, you're all confused. And confusion can be an abomination. Confusion is an abomination to the Most High. That's why he gave his people instruction. That's why he gave his people Torah. That's why he gave his people the testimonies. That's why Yahweh gave his people his word. So that we wouldn't be confused. So that we wouldn't be just filling in darkness. So that we would know the ways wherein we should walk and walk therein. But when you refuse to take on the words of Yah, when you refuse to hearken to the words of Yah, you remain in a state of Babel. You remain in a state of confusion. And that's an abomination. And once you are in a state of confusion, and once you are confused and turn backwards, now all of a sudden there's a whole lot of things that you condone. There's a whole lot of things that you will let be permissible in your eyes and in your sight and take place in your cities. Let's look at what happened when confusion has taken over an entire nation. Turn with me, if you will, to the book of Genesis, the 19th chapter. In the book of Genesis, the 19th chapter, I'm going to begin reading at the very first verse. Genesis 19:1 reads, "And there came two angels." And this is when Lot and his family was in Sodom and Gomorrah. Because the men of Lot and the men of Abraham, they were striving together. They were striving. And Abraham said, look, this is just not good. Wherever you go, we will go the opposite way. So if you go to the left, then we'll go to the right. If you go north, then we'll go south. And Yahweh directed Abraham's step to go one way, and Lot went a whole nother way. He went into a land that was full of confusion, full of abominations, full of evil. And let's look at what happened when two angels came into this city. It says, and there came two angels to Sodom at even, and Lot sat in the gate of Sodom. And Lot, seeing them, rose up to meet them, and he bowed himself with his face towards the ground. And he said, behold now, my masters, turn in, I pray you, into your servant's house, and tarry all night, and wash your feet, and you shall rise up early and go on your way. And they said, nay, but we will abide in the street all night. So these angels, they was angels of Yahweh. They ain't fear what man could do to them. Because Yah had already proclaimed his judgment that he has made man a little lower than the angel. So the angels was fine. They said, look, we'll just patrol the streets all night long, because we know what's about to happen. Yahweh that already gave his command on what's going to take place. You're not going to save us. We're here to save you. But let's look at what happened. And it reads, and he pressed upon them greatly, and they turned in unto him, and entered into his house, and he made them a feast, and did bake unleavened bread, and they did eat. But before they lay down, the men of the city, now these the men of the city, even the men of Sodom, could pass the house round, both old and young. The old and the youth was corrupted. And they surrounded the whole house. And let's look at what they said. Let's see if they knocked on the door to give them a welcome to the neighborhood. Let's see what they were acting in. And it says, and they called unto Lot, and said unto him, where are the men which came in to you this night? Bring them out unto us, that we may know them. Now, I had a discussion with someone a few years ago, and they said, well, they weren't trying to lay with these angels. They were just trying to check them out. Well, let's see by the testimony if that's all they were trying to do was check them out. It says, and Lot went out at the door unto them and shut the door after him and said, I pray you, brethren, do not so wickedly. So how was this wicked if all they were just trying to do was familiarize them and talk to them, have a conversation with them? No, they didn't want to know them. They wanted to lay with them. Because the whole city was confounded. The whole city was confused. The whole city was Babel. Just a bunch of confusion and utter wickedness taking place. And let's continue reading. And it says, and say, I pray you, brethren, do not so wickedly. Behold now, I have 2 daughters, which have not known man. Let me, I pray you, bring them out unto you, and do you to them as it is good in your eyes. Only unto these men do nothing, for there came they under the shadow of my roof. So Lot said, look, please don't do that to these 2 men. Please don't act in this way. I have 2 daughters. Now, could you imagine a nation that's so perverse, a nation that's so confused, a nation that's so wicked will knock on your door, and you so perplexed at what they trying to do with these men in your house, you will offer your 2 daughters that haven't known man? And I don't know why they didn't know man, because both of his daughters were married. So that just lets you know just how confused this nation was. And let's continue reading and see what happened. And they said, stand back. And they said again, this one fellow came in to sojourn, and he will needs to be a judge. Now, we will deal worse with you than with them. And they pressed sore upon the man, even Lot, and came near to break the door. So they threatened them like, look, man, you don't turn these men booties over, man. We're going to do worse with you than we will with them. Not even knowing who's under this man's roof. Not even knowing who's in this man's house. But they're about to find out sooner rather than later. But the men put forth their hand and pulled Lot into the house to them and shut the door. And they smote the men that were at the door of the house with blindness, both small and great, so that they wearied themselves to find the door. So, since they were trying to do wicked, since they were trying to be perverse, now confusion was set in their eyes, and they couldn't even find the door. Because anytime there's disobedience against the words of the Most High, or anytime you're trying to touch Yahweh's anointed, that's all that's going to come to you is confusion. That's all that's going to come to you is Babel. Outright confusion. And this was perverse that was taking place. But this was the land that Lot was dwelling in. And this is what Yahweh was saving Lot and his family from. But when you take on the ways, when you dwell in the land of confusion, and you don't have the ways that Yahweh lead in your steps, then you're going to start doing the ways and the acts of confusion. You're going to start performing confusion. And next thing you know, you're going to be perverse. And this is a hand that is stretched out upon the whole entire earth. See, people think that Babel was just a geographical location. And it was at one time. And people think that Babylon is just a geographical place. And it was at one time. And people think that the daughter of Babylon is just a geographical place. But what you don't know is that confusion was all over the earth. Why? Because this is what Yahweh did to the town of Babel. He confounded the speech, and he scattered the people all over the earth. So now people say, well, man, we in America today. But this is not no Babylon. This is not Babylon. Oh, really? This is not confusion? How is it not confusing? When you can ask several different Israelites one question and get several different answers. One may tell you what thus saith Yah. One may tell you what thus saith Paul. One may tell you what thus saith me. One may say, well, I heard. Another one may say, well, I guess. One may say, well, it seems like. Well, what happened to the oneness? It was scattered. And what happened to the straight path? It was made confusion. Why? Because anytime we disobey the Most High, this is the type of state that we be in, that we become in the state of confusion, in the state of Babel. This is why Daniel knew this. The righteous knew this. The servant of Yahweh know this. Turn with me to the book of Daniel, the 9th chapter. In Daniel, the 9th chapter, I'm going to begin reading at the 7th verse. Daniel 9:7 reads, O Yahweh, righteousness belong unto you, but unto us confusion of faces, as at this day to the men of Yehudah and to the inhabitants of Jerusalem, and unto all of Israel that are near and that are far off, through all the countries whither thou hast driven them, because of their trespass that they have trespassed against you. O Yahweh, to us belongeth confusion of faces, and our kings, and to our princes, and to our fathers, because we have sinned against you. And to Yahweh our Elohim belong mercies and forgiveness, though we have rebelled against him. Neither have we obeyed the voice of Yahweh our Elohim to walk in his laws, which he set before us by his servants, the prophets. Yea, all Israel has transgressed our law, even by departing, that they might not obey the voice thereof. Therefore, the curse is poured upon us, and the oath that is written in the law of Moses, the servant of Elohim, because we have sinned against him. And he have confirmed his words, which he spake against us, and against our judges that judged us, by bringing upon us a great evil. For under the whole heaven have not been done, as have been done upon Jerusalem. And that is, as it is written in the law of Moses, all this evil was come upon us. Made we not our prayer before Yahweh our Elohim, that we might turn from our iniquities and understand our truth. That's right. The only way that we're going to be able to turn from our iniquities and understand the truth of Yahweh is that we have to return unto Yahweh. Because unto us belong confusion of faces. As we read the other night, when we were speaking about the state that we are in, confusion of faces. And this is exactly what's taking place. Confusion of faces belong unto us. And this is what state that is upon us even unto this very day. Confusion of faces. Babylon, a straight confused state of mind. A straight confused state. And this is what happens when we disobey the Most High. What other ways are you going to get? You're not going to disobey the Most High and become wiser. You'll be wiser in your own conceit. You may say, oh, well, you're not going to disobey the Most High and get a better understanding. No, you'll start leaning to your own understanding. You're not going to disobey the Most High and get more knowledge. All you'll do is just get the knowledge of corruption, the knowledge of good and evil, and start doing evil. Because we have to return to the Most High. And a lot of our people have gotten out of the way of the Most High. They've cast the words of the Most High to the side. And they said, all that you say, We will not do. We will not hearken and do. We will not do this. We will not. We refuse to do this. Why? Because the Most High has scattered us. And that's what we discussed the other night, the putting forth of the finger. But let's see what happens when you turn out of the ways of the Most High. Because many of our people have. And many people of the earth have. And they say, man, I done started reading. And I found out this. And I found out that. And man, I was reading this book and I found out this. I found out that the Bible is a lie. That the words of the Most High is a lie. And that we really this. And we really that. And most of the time it's turning you into a nation that the Most High said he despised. Who the Most High haven't given no wisdom, understanding, and knowledge to. But people say, man, I've been reading books, man, I found out we Moors. We really Moabites. Man, I read this book, man, I see that we really Egyptians. Man, we really Canaanites. Like, why you trying to be all these nations that Yahweh said he despised? Why? Because they've been seeking and they've been reading from the books of Babel. And now they're all together confused. Look at what happened. Look at what it says in the book of Ecclesiastes, the 12th chapter. And you can name it. Whatever nation that's an abomination, that's who we want to be a part of. But you don't want to be no parts of the descendants of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. You don't want to be You don't want to be redeemed by the Most High. You want to rely on those that smote you to save you. And this is why we are in the state of confusion that we are in. In the book of Ecclesiastes, the 12th chapter and the 12th verse, the 13th verse, it reads, no, we're going to start at the 12th verse. It says, and further by these, my son, be admonished, of making many books, there is no end. And much study is a weariness of the flesh. Yes, much study a weariness of the flesh. Why? Because there's never no end to these books. People done left the ways of Yah, or what they thought was the ways of Yah, and they start reading books. And that's all they do is just read books. Man, I read this one book, and it's deep. It talk about wisdom. It talk about meditation. It talk about how to be one with yourself. It talk about how to be one with your people. It talk about how to be knowledgeable. It talk about how to speak. You don't got to read all these books for that. Yahweh book speaks about all these things. But they read these books and they think that they getting knowledge. And they think they being increased in knowledge. But really all they doing is just being led further and further in the path of confusion. And to let you know that they being led further and further into the path of confusion is letting you know, my son, be admonished. Of making many books, there is no end. And much study is a weariness of the flesh. So you can read all the books that you can get your hands on. And you just going to come out sleepy and confused. But what's going to take it home? What's going to be the home run hitter? Well, in verse 13, it says, but let us hear the conclusion of the whole matter. Fear Elohim and keep his commandments, for this is the whole man, or this is the whole duty of man. That's right. All this time you've been running around trying to search and read book after book after book, trying to find out about your heritage, trying to find out about your purpose, trying to find out about time, trying to find out about wisdom, understanding and knowledge. And all this time you've been reading book after book, and it says, look, the conclusion of the whole matter is to fear Yah and keep his commandments. And what did Yahweh say? Wisdom is the principal thing. Therefore get wisdom. But with all you're getting, get understanding. And the wisdom of Yahweh also lets you know that there is no wisdom, understanding the counsel against Yahweh. So no matter what books you try to get to combat the Most High, all that's going to come unto you is Babel. All that's going to come unto you is confusion. Why? Because you have departed out of the way of instruction to fear Elohim and keep his commandments. This is the wisdom that the Most High gave King Solomon in the book of Proverbs, the first division. And in the book of Proverbs, the first division, I'm going to start reading at the second verse. And it reads, what is the whole purpose of this book of Proverbs? In verse 2 it says, to know wisdom and instruction, and to perceive the words of understanding, and to receive the instructions of wisdom, justice and judgment and equity, to give subtlety to the simple, and to the young man knowledge and discretion. A wise man will hear and increase learning, and a man of understanding shall be attained unto wise counsel. To understand a proverb and the interpretation, the words of the wise and their dark sayings. And then verse 7 reads, the fear of Yah is the beginning of knowledge, but fools despise wisdom and instruction. That's right. So if you reject the words of the Most High, if you reject the words of the wisdom, understanding, and knowledge of the Most High that he's given through his servants, then all you just showing is that you're a fool. And that's not me calling you that. That is the words of Yahweh calling you that. Just outright a fool. Why? Because if you want wisdom, and if you want to attain understanding, if you want to get to know wisdom and instruction, you have to go to the book that Yahweh has ordained and to be in his testimony. And this book of Proverbs, this is the book of wisdom. So with all this running to and forth, getting all this knowledge from these heathens, getting all the knowledge from these nations whom Yahweh haven't even spoken to, all you doing is just getting further and further and deeper into confusion. Because these things don't bring you close to the Most High. You don't come near the Most High. You won't even acknowledge the Most High. You'll start trying to give credit for man for bringing you out of oppression. You'll start patting yourself on your back for getting yourself out of bondage when you didn't deliver yourself out of anything. The only one that delivered us out of the house of bondage was the one that identified himself in the book of Exodus, the 20th chapter. And in the book of Exodus, the 20th chapter, I'm going to begin reading at the very first verse. And it reads, and Elohim spake all these words, saying, I am Yahweh, thy Elohim, which have brought thee out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondage. Yahweh identified himself by letting you know, I'm your Redeemer. I'm your salvation. I'm the one that brought you out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondage. That means, so therefore, thou shalt have no other Elohim besides me. Don't even have an Elohim besides me. Don't make no graven images and say that that's besides me. Because that's all a lie. That's all confusing. That's all babble. That's all it is a bunch of babble. Serving the Christ of the New Testament is a bunch of babble. Serving the religion of Islam is a bunch of babble. Serving the Kemetic religion or the Kemetic doctrine, that's babble. Following after these false philosophers is just babble. Because all that's going to be brought to you is confusion. Because after all these things are preached, After all these speeches are delivered, you're going to look and see that you still in the same condition that you was in before you even came to this man or came to these so-called religions. Because all of it is just outright confusion. All of it is Babel. And Yahweh knows this. Because why? Yahweh is the creator of the heavens, the earth, the sea, and all that therein is. And Yahweh issued a challenge for all the nations to see that there is no wisdom, understanding, the counsel against his word. Turn with me to the book of Isaiah, the 45th chapter. In the book of Isaiah, the 45th chapter, I'm going to begin reading at the 21st verse. And it reads, "Tell you, and bring them near. Let them take counsel together. Who have declared this from the ancient time? And who have hold it from that time? Who's done this? Bring all your philosophers. Bring all your scholars. Bring all these men with PhDs and DD degrees and all these men that's been studying out of these library books. Have them come forth and declare these things. And truly they won't be able to. Truly they cannot. Why? Because it says, who could declare these things? Who have told it from that time, from the ancient time? Who has told it from that time? Have not I Yahweh? And there is no Elohim besides me, a just Elohim and a Savior. There is none besides me. Look unto me and be you saved, all the ends of the earth, for I am Elohim and there is none else. Yahweh is letting us know there is none else. So search it out. Try to find it out. See if your scholars can bring you something superior to the words of Yahweh. See if all these journeymen can bring you a book that's superior to Yahweh. They've been saying for years that the scriptures of Yahweh are plagiarized. They've been saying for years that the words of Yahweh are plagiarized. And they just a bunch of other stories. Well, bring laws and testimonies that are superior to the words of Yah. See, all they do is just give a bunch of deep speeches. And it sound deep because our people are that confused. Our people are that much in the state of Babel. And anytime you have lost your way, anytime you are confused, anytime that you don't know who you are or the true and living Elohim is, you are truly in the state of Babel. You are in the town of Babel. You are in the nation of Babel. Just outright and utter confusion. And when you don't know the ways of Yah, how can you do righteousness? How can you execute judgment and justice when you don't have the wisdom, understanding, or the knowledge of the holy? It's impossible. Turn with me to the book of Leviticus, the 18th chapter. In the book of Leviticus, the 18th chapter, I'm going to begin reading at the 22nd verse. Thou shalt not lie with mankind as with womankind. It is an abomination. Neither shalt thou lie with any beast to defile thyself therewith. Neither shall any woman stand before a beast to lie down thereto. It is confusion. It's Babel. It's just outright confusion. It's Babylon. And this is how you know you in the midst of Babylon. Because they condone all this. Not only do they condone all this, they've made amendments in their law to justify this. And if you speak against this, you could be blackballed or you could be X'd out of a career, out of your job. If you speak against this, You don't even have to speak against it in a derogatory manner. Just speaking against it, period, will have you totally outcasted. Why? Because you are in a state of confusion. You are in the midst of a confused nation. Because this is what Yahweh has said. And as it was taught this Sabbath, we don't have to bash anybody. We don't have to talk cruel to no one. All we have to do is just tell you the truth. And this is the truth. Yahweh called these acts an abomination. So no matter how many laws are passed trying to condone it, no matter how much they feel like you have to progress and deal with it and accept it, it's an abomination. If they made kidnapping legal, it's an abomination. If they made molestation legal, it's an abomination. If they made murder legal, it's an abomination. And I don't adjust to it, and the righteous won't adjust to it just because the land of confusion is given passes to do it. Because it's outright confusion. And it's confusion for the man, it's confusion for the woman, and it's confusion for the children. They got laws now where a child being born, it doesn't matter whether it's a male child or a female child. They give them genderless birth certificates. So you don't even have to declare the gender. Even though Yahweh said all the male children belonged unto him. So imagine if you say, well, y'all, I'm not going to turn in my child because I didn't want a son. I wanted a daughter. This is just outright confusion. This is an abomination. Land with beasts, this is an abomination. But this is things that they condone. This is things that are permissible. It may be frowned upon by the masses of society, but it's not illegal. You can go to certain states and marry your dog, marry your donkey, marry your horse. A grown man can stand before another grown man and get married. A grown woman can stand in front of a grown woman and get married. These type of things are being permitted. Why? Because this is the town Babel. This is the nation of confusion. And everything that they've done and everything that they put their hand to is wrought straight out confusion. And to show you this is confusion, turn with me to the book of Deuteronomy, the 22nd chapter. And if you stand for this, and if you condone this, and if you stand up and defend this, then that just shows that you are just in a state of Babel. You are in a state of confusion. Yahweh has confounded your speech, and he done scattered you. Because you truly are scattered from righteousness. You truly are scattered from the ways of Yah. And in Deuteronomy, the 22nd chapter, and the 5th verse, it reads that the woman shall not wear that which pertain unto a man, neither shall a man wear that of a woman's garment. For all that do so are an abomination unto Yah thy Elohim. Yahweh calls this an abomination. Why? Because it's confusing. And this is what you have going up and down in the aisles of Babylon today. Have a grown man walking around in a dress, full 5 o'clock shadow, hair all on his legs with a dress on, and walk right past you like you're not supposed to see that that's a grown man in a dress. You'll have women walking around in the streets dressed just like boys. They sag their pants. They wear the fitted shirts. And they breasts is sticking all out. Like you can't tell that's a woman. Now some of them you can't. Just like some of these men, they in disguise. Some of them, it's hard to tell from a distance. But for the most part, you can't run from what Yahweh done made you. You could try. You could denounce it. But that's how you were made. Yahweh didn't make no errors. Yahweh didn't make no mistakes. But morals are a learned behavior. And in society, your morality is based off of, well, just go with your heart. Just follow your heart. And the Most High has already let you know that the heart is deceitful and desperately wicked. Above all things, who can know it? But if you do these things, you are in a state of confusion. You are in a state that is just not good. Turn with me to the book of Proverbs, the 20th chapter. In the book of Proverbs, the 20th chapter, and verse 23, it reads that diverse weights are an abomination unto Yah, and the false balance is not good. And that's the state that we are living in. It's full of false balances. Here it is, you'll have the whole world coming after one individual that's infamous for messing with little girls. This dude named R. Kelly. Everybody want to see this dude head on the pitchfork, thrown in the prison houses. Now, if you just are truly offended at the acts that you were hearing about, well, let everything be established by 2 or more witnesses. And once it's established, the judgment that falls upon them is the judgment that falls upon them. But where's the same energy for these Catholic priests who have been raping little boys and girls for centuries? Centuries. They just had a story where the head priest been raping little boys and girls for years, for decades. And the only thing he did was get removed from his leadership post. No prison time. No death penalty. And these things are an abomination because these things are a false balance. And yet the world is still running out talking about it's Ash Wednesday. And putting crucifix signs on your neck, on your forehead. Outright confusion. And this is coming right out of the Catholic Church. This is an abomination because it's a false balance. It's just not good. To have diverse weights in our bags are just not good. But if you follow the ways of Babylon, you will see that this is exactly what takes place. Turn one eye and focus on one thing and be ready to stone it to death, but turn another eye totally blind to the same act being done by someone else that you respect. And Yahweh already said, don't be a respecter of persons. Why? Because this is exactly what would take place. You will display a false balance. When somebody you don't know do it, it's time for their head to come off. Somebody you do know do it, you be like, well, it's a false balance. It's an abomination unto Yahweh. And if you go by this, then this is how you know that you in the state of confusion. This is how you know that you in the other state of bitter confusion of faces. You are in Babel. You are in Babel. Whether you've been in the continent of Africa or not, whether you done been on the shores of where our people have been or not, you are in the town of Babel. If you're going by these ways and you keeping the ways of the people. Yahweh said this in the book of Deuteronomy, the 4th chapter. A lot of our people are going by things that are not even doctrine. Going by things that are not established by the Most High. They'll say, man, you out of your mind. Talking about it's 30 days in every month. And it's 12 months in every year. You out of your mind. You done lost it. All of y'all done lost it. Y'all dealing in some straight up abominable stuff, man. This is an abomination. But then when you turn around and ask, well, show me where the Most High said anything about following the crescent moon, a full moon, a no moon. Show where that's established that by Yah, and they can't do it. Show me a 13th month, and they can't do it. Show me these, and they can't show it. But then they'll turn to us and say, well, man, y'all up there ignoring lights. Well, look at what the testimony was written in the book of Deuteronomy, the 4th chapter. This is when Yahweh came upon Mount Sinai, and it was darkness. It was fire. It was smoke. It was something that's unforgettable if you saw it. And look at what Yahweh calls to happen. In Deuteronomy, the 4th chapter, and the 19th verse. And it reads, and least thou lift up thine eyes unto heaven, and when you see the sun, and the moon, and the stars, even all the host of heaven, and should be driven to worship them, and serve them, which Yahweh thy Elohim have divided unto all the nations under the whole heaven. Yahweh didn't tell you nothing about following after just the sun. Yahweh didn't command us to follow after just the moon and the stars. Yahweh said that he made these lights and divided them for all the nations under the whole heaven. So when did Yahweh command you to go out and look for a crescent? When did he tell you to look for a dark moon? When did he say that his Shabbat is predicated on the moon? No, these were created. These are timekeepers. But Yahweh's word lets you know what time is. And this is why it was divided unto the whole nations. And it says, but Yahweh have taken you and brought you forth out of the iron furnace, even out of Egypt, to be unto him a people of inheritance, as you are this day. Yes, Yahweh took you to be a people of inheritance. And what have we inherited? His word, his laws, statutes, judgments, and commandments, his testimonies. This is what his people have inherited. Not to go out and go crazy over the lights. Not to go out and go crazy over a false idol. Not to go out and go crazy and just be like, I'm going to be a freak. Yahweh gave us an inheritance, and it's his word. The same thing that he calls his people to hear when he was upon Mount Sinai. And he blotted out everything so his people can hear his word. And when we depart from hearing the word of Yah, and when we refuse to hearken to the word of Yah, we are in a total state of Babel, a total state of confusion. And this is what takes place. And you think that Babylon, it has infiltrated your bedroom. It has infiltrated your way of thinking. It has infiltrated your way of being. And now it has even infiltrated your so-called political system. We had discussed this past Shabbat. Is Israel anti-government? No, we are not anti-government. We pro-Yahweh. We service a Yah. Now, if you're going to have a government, it has to be established on the word of Yah, on the laws, statutes, and judgments of Yahweh. And how did Yahweh establish the government? It's in the book of Deuteronomy, the 17th chapter. In Deuteronomy, the 17th chapter, I'm going to start reading at the 15th verse. Well, let me get there. I'm on the wrong page. Here we go. Deuteronomy 17 and 15 reads, Thou shalt in any wise set him a king over you, whom Yahweh your Elohim shall choose. Run from amongst your brethren, shall you set king over you, and thou mayest not set a stranger over you, which is not your brother. But he shall not multiply horses unto himself, nor cause the people to return to Egypt, to the end that he shall multiply horses. For as much as Yahweh have said unto you, you shall henceforth return no more that way. Neither shall he multiply wives to himself, that his heart turn not away. Neither shall he greatly multiply to himself silver and gold. And it shall be, when he sitteth upon the throne of his kingdom, that he shall write him a copy of this law in a book out of that which is before the priest, the Levite. And it shall be with him, and he shall read therein all the days of his life, that he may learn to fear Yahweh his Elohim, to keep all the words of this law and these statutes, to do them, that his heart be not lifted up above his brethren, and that he turn not aside from the commandments to the right hand or to the left, and to the end that he may prolong his days in his kingdom, he and his children in the midst of Israel. This is what the king that's set up supposed to do. And now you wonder why you got a Trump. Now you wonder why in these other countries they got the prime ministers that they got, the presidents that they got. Because they're not even hearkening to this. They moving by the imaginations of their own heart. They moving by the way that they feel. They falling for the smooth words. They falling for the outright ways that's going to lead them into utter confusion. That's why there's chaos. That's why they always talking about this is the land of the pursuit of happiness. No wonder they're in the pursuit of happiness. They're in the pursuit of happiness because they never kept the law. And it says in the book of Proverbs, where there is no vision, the people perish. But happy is he that keep the law. No wonder they're in the pursuit of something that they haven't found. They're in the pursuit of peace and the pursuit of happiness. You will pursue the things that you can't obtain because you're not seeking it from the words of Yah. Even though they'll put in God we trust on their money. Even though they'll put the 10 commandments up by their monuments and disobey every single law of the Most High and make a mockery of the laws of the Most High. And why is this taking place? Why are these things happening? And why are you like unto the people if you go by their way? Because this was never meant to be established to be a land where wisdom, understanding, and knowledge just flows freely through the streets. Yahweh already said that this would take place in the book of Deuteronomy, the 28th chapter. And in the book of Deuteronomy, the 28th chapter, I'm going to read the 49th verse. And it reads, Yahweh shall bring a nation against you from far, from the ends of the earth, as swift as the eagle flieth. A nation whose tongue thou shalt not understand. A nation of fierce countenance, which shall not regard the person of the old, nor show favor to the young. You see that happen in Sodom and Gomorrah. You see that happen in ancient Babylon. You see that happen in the daughter of Babylon today. Why? Because all it does is just transmit. That's all it does. It's a state of confusion. It's a nation of confusion. And Yahweh said that I will bring a fierce nation upon you, and they should be as swift as the eagle flieth. And what bird do this nation celebrate? The bald eagle. And the nation whose tongue thou shalt not understand. And when our forefathers and foremothers came off of those ships, they didn't understand the words that's being spoken. They didn't understand. They were in a state of confusion because the moment our people turned their backs on the Most High, that's what state that we were in. And that's the state that we remain in even unto this very day. The people's language was confounded and they were scattered. And the confusion of Babel is all over the earth. So it don't matter whether you in South America, North America. It doesn't matter whether you in Asia, China. It doesn't matter whether you in New York, LA. It doesn't matter whether you in England, France. It doesn't matter whether you in Russia. It doesn't matter where you are. Confusion has taken hold of the whole nation. Now show me a nation that's following Yahweh perfectly, wholeheartedly. Show me this nation. They don't exist. They don't exist because Yahweh is waiting for his praise to be in the earth. And if we confused, how can we be the praises? How can we show forth Yahweh's praises if we're confused, if we're confounded? And the number one thing that will confound you and confuse you is after hearkening after these false idols. And the biggest idol that our people are following after, no wonder we in the state of confusion. We following after an idol that thought an abomination. You thought what the people of Babel was doing was something. Well, look at what most of our people have chose to follow after. Most of our people will get vexed at you if you don't follow after this fella. They will disassociate and cut off friendships and families for not following this fella. But look at what mind state was in this man. And now you want to know why all the people that follow this man is outright confused. Turn with me to the book of Philippians, the 2nd chapter. In the book of Philippians, the 2nd chapter, I'm going to begin reading at the 5th verse. And it reads, Philippians 2 and 5, it reads, "Let this mind be in you, which was also in JC, who being in the form of God, thought it not robbery to be equal with God." Now, what type of sense does that make? You in the form of the Creator, but you don't think it robbery to think to be equal to the Creator. This fool is confused. This book is a book of Babel. This book is a book of confusion. This whole New Testament is confusion. It's Babylon. The Quran is Babylon. The coming forth of day and night is Babylon. These false books are Babylon. The Talmud is Babylon. And said, man, he didn't think it was any robbery to be equal unto the Most High. Well, who else had a mentality like that? Who else thought it not robbery to be equal to the Most High? Are we going to go back to Genesis 11? No, that's not necessary to go back there. All we have to do is turn back, get out of this book and turn with me to the book of Isaiah, the 14th chapter. Now remember that Philippians, the 2nd chapter, the 6th verse, that this man thought it not robbery to be equal to the Most High, even though he was made in the form of the Most High. He thought it not robbery. Well, who else had this mentality? In the book of Isaiah, the 14th chapter, I'm going to start reading at the 12th verse. And it reads, "How art thou fallen from heaven, O Lucifer, son of the morning? How art thou cut down to the ground, which did weaken the nations? For thou hast said in thine heart, I will ascend into heaven, and I will exalt my throne above the stars of Elohim. And I will sit also upon the mount of the congregation in the sides of the north. And I will ascend above the heights of the clouds. I will be like the Most High. Sound familiar? This was the heart of Lucifer, and this was the heart out of their own book. This was the mind that was in JC. Now you may say, well, ObediYAH, what does that mean today? What do you mean? What does that have to do with Babylon today? Well, it said that they wanted to be in the clouds. They want to be in the heights of the clouds. They want to sit in the thrones they want to sit in the clouds and be like the Most High, just hovering around. Now, what do you think they have created today? They have created the National Aeronautic Space and Space Administration, or what you would know as NASA. This is what they have done. And what do you think they're trying to explore outer space and do? Why do you think they're trying to discover different planets? Because they want to be like the Most High and just dwell up in the heavens and outer space. This is what they're doing. And Yahweh knew, just like what he did with the town Babel, he had to bring Babel down. Look at what Yahweh said that he would do. He said, yet thou shalt be brought down to hell and to the sides of the pit. And they that see you shall narrowly look upon you and consider you, saying, is this the man that made the earth to tremble, that did shake kingdoms? And this is what they have done. They have created their nuclear bombs, their atomic bombs. They want to be up in the heavens. They want to rule your household. They want to feed you. They want to house you. They want to clothe you. Why? Because they're trying to be equal to the Most High. And all that's being brought to them is utter confusion. Utter confusion. Not light, darkness. Not holiness, unholiness. Not equality, but a false balance. And it's in your households. It's in your clothes. It's in your speech. It's in your marriage. It's in your relationships. It's done infiltrated your whole way of life if you've taken on the ways of these heathens. Now you are in a state of confusion. So when Yahweh sends his messengers, his servants, to set the crooked things straight, now it looks blurry to you. Now it seems confusing to you because you've been in a state of confusion this whole entire time. And this is why Yahweh has instructed his people to do this in the book of Isaiah, the 10th chapter. In the book of Isaiah, the 10th chapter, I will begin reading at the 20th verse. And it reads, and it shall come to pass in that day that the remnant of Israel and such as are escaped of the house of Yaakov shall no more stay upon him that smote them, but they shall stay upon Yahweh, the Holy One of Israel, in truth. And the remnant shall return, even the remnant of Yaakov, unto the mighty Elohim. Yes, it's time to put away the ways of Babylon and return unto the mighty Elohim. Return back to Yah. No wonder it looks confusion to the masses. No wonder they don't understand in the ways we walk. No wonder when we say we Hebrews, as Mowreh IshYAH taught last night, breaking down what it means to actually be a Hebrew. And how Yahweh done severed us from all the families of the face of this earth. And now when you walk in the ways of Yah, and you refuse to try to pervert yourself in your speech and in your walk, your people looking at you like, what? What are you doing? You used to do that. Man, you gonna tell me you eat? Man, you used to eat pig feet all the time. Well, I don't no more. I done let go of the confusion. Man, come on, man. You used to be gay. Well, I'm not no more. I done let go of the confusion. Man, come on, man. We used to ho-hop all the time. Well, I done let go of the confusion. And the only reason why you don't see the benefits of it is because you still in the state of confusion. And when you follow after the ways of these nations, when you follow after the ways of these heathens, you start to see yourself dwell deeper and deeper in the abyss of confusion. So these things that are happening to our people, as vexed as they want to be, they don't consider. There's vexed as many misjustices that's happening to our people and misjudgment that is happening to our people, they can't seem to put a grasp on it. Because why? They haven't considered the words of Yahweh. Turn with me to the book of Deuteronomy, the 32nd chapter. In the book of Deuteronomy, the 32nd chapter, and the 21st verse, it reads, they have moved me to jealousy with them which is not a Elohim. They have provoked me to anger with their vanities, and I will move them to jealousy with those which are not a people. I will provoke them to anger with a foolish nation. Because when you are confused, you are utterly acting foolish. And Yahweh said, I will move you to jealousy with them which are not a people. I will provoke you to anger with a foolish nation. You're going to be in a nation of foolishness. And all that's going to be taking place is confusion and abominations. Now, people may say, well, man, all this can be rectified if we just take a hold of the language. See, you reading out of that King James book. You reading out of that King James Bible. I know the original language. I speak the original language. I know the Hebrew. See, what you speaking over there is Yiddish, but I speak the real Hebrew. Well, let's see what Yahweh said about this language. Turn with me to the book of Zephaniah, the 3rd chapter. In the book of Zephaniah, the 3rd chapter, I'm going to read the 7th verse. No, I'm going to read, the 9th verse. In Zephaniah 3, verse 9, it reads, for then will I return to the people a pure language, that they may all call upon the name of Yahweh to serve him with one consent. So how do you know we don't have the pure language in our midst today? It's because we're not all calling upon the name of Yahweh with one consent to serve him. So I don't care how ancient of the language you speak. I don't care how you try to fancy up the language. If you're not calling on Yahweh with one consent, then you don't have the pure language. What you have is the language of confusion. What you have upon you is the language of Babel, of Babylon. Now, people may say, well, you make it a grim picture because now you acting like we can't be on our own. We can't have our own houses. We shouldn't try to establish government. We shouldn't try to seek to try to be independent. Well, how are we going to flee from the midst of Babylon? Now, you a Moreh. You tell me how we supposed to do this. Because it sounds like everything that we set in our hand to do is set for failure. And that's not the truth. The one thing, the one major ingredient, the one major component that will bring all this together and make it successful is the last thing that our people are trying to look towards. And this is the last scripture. Turn with me to the book of Psalms, the 127th division. In Psalms 127, and the very first verse, it reads, except Yahweh build the house, they labor in vain that built it. And except Yahweh keep the city, the watchmen wake, but in vain. So if you want your own system, stop letting confusion build it. If you want your own economic system, stop letting Babel build it. If you want a successful relationship, stop relying on Babel to give you a standard. If you want to have righteous children, stop raising them in the ways of Babel. And if you want to be a righteous man, stop walking in the ways of Babel. And if you want to be a virtuous woman, then stop walking in the ways of Babel. In other words, stop letting confusion build your house and let Yahweh build it. Because that's the only way it's going to be a light. So until tomorrow, Yahweh loves you, and so do we at the house of Israel. Shalom.
To you, my Yah, do I lift up my soul. And trust in you, he always kept me whole. And left my enemies deep in their holes. Let none that wait on Yahweh be ashamed. But shame on those who sin without a cause. Show me your ways, please teach me your laws. Oh Elohim of my salvation, I'm staying down and patient. As a child, all the while I'm waiting. Remember not the sins of my youth. Lead me in your truth, and he'll give your soul ease. The earth shall remain inherited by a seed. The secret of Yahweh who fears Elohim, who believes everything. And to every word spoken, you can't take heed unless you hear somebody curse. You know you did the same thing. That's why I'm begging Yah for mercy and His love and kindness, cause I know that I ain't worthy. Oh yeah, the seven seas, captivity is taking hold upon me. Who frightened me and now we flee from fallen leaves. The grinding grief from all the blood our people see. And now we cry, where is the word from Elohim? And so we said that we are His wives to be submissive, but we dismiss it. It is of this reason we have fallen victim to the lies that your root will prey and pursue. Rebellious of the Son, forgotten that He is one. Broken the holy ordinance, rejection of reproof. Then acknowledge what we do. Now we return back to the...
Thank you for using Blog Talk Radio. Goodbye.